So I've been a minimalist for about 5 years now. When I first decluttered my apartment, I noticed that not only was my home more spacious, I also felt lighter and happier. And for years I wondered, would that feeling increase if I became an extreme minimalist? But as it turned out, that wasn't the case. I tried it, but I realized that there's a tipping point beyond which my life just became more complicated, not better. So here are several reasons why I'm not an extreme minimalist. My girlfriend is not a minimalist. Let's get this one out of the way first. My girlfriend is not a minimalist. She's not a hoarder by any means either. I guess, unlike me, she's just normal. When I first got into minimalism, I was single. It's easy to be a minimalist when you don't have to take someone else into account. You can do whatever you want. I sometimes have the impression that many people that present themselves as extreme minimalists online don't have a partner or a family. And some still even live with their parents. They only show their bedroom. But it's easy to present yourself as an extreme minimalist and only show your bedroom, whereas all the other stuff that you do use but don't show is owned by other people in your household. Things aren't always that easy when you're in a relationship, and even more so when you have kids, I imagine. I couldn't live with a hoarder, someone who has opposite values from me, but I also wouldn't want to impose my views on my girlfriend. When your partner isn't a minimalist, let alone an extreme minimalist, you have to compromise. In a relationship, it's give and take, and you end up somewhere in the middle. And if that means living with more stuff than maybe I would if I was single, so be it. She did declutter a bunch of things after we moved in together, but ultimately she makes her own choices, and minimalism isn't nearly as important to me as being in a happy relationship. I learned this the hard way when, in one of my weekend moments, I walked around looking for clutter to clean up.
Peter! You are not the clutter police, okay?
Extreme minimalism is too restrictive. For years, I wondered, would I feel happier if I reduced my possessions even further to an extremely low number? Last year, I had the chance to test that out. I lived like an extreme minimalist alone for 7 days. But I quickly noticed that I wasn't actually feeling any lighter or better. I realized that it's not a straight line where fewer possessions equal more happiness. Instead, the law of diminishing returns applies. And I'd even argue that beyond a certain point, life just becomes more complicated, not better. Less is still more, but now it becomes more frustration and headaches instead of more happiness and peace. You can gain most of the benefits of minimalism by decluttering your possessions, lowering your expenses, and setting rules for how you spend your money going forward. To me, life is not only about how much you need and then settling for the absolute bare minimum. That's too extreme for me. I don't just want to survive, I also want to feel alive. And a little bit of comfort is nice for that. I like to have a place where I can put my keys when I come home. I like to have a sofa to sit on instead of a pillow on the floor. I also want to be able to have family or friends over and have enough dining table chairs for them to sit on. And have enough plates and cutlery and bowls so that when I'm cooking, I can serve the food to them and I don't have to go to the neighbor to borrow that. Minimalism is a means, not an end. So sometimes I get comments here on YouTube like,
"Oh, you have a MacBook. You're not a real minimalist."
And I feel those people, they don't get the point. A professional chef needs high-quality, sharp knife to do his best cooking. Not this knife, because this is just, I have a very average knife that we have in the kitchen, because I'm not a professional chef. But my laptop is my chef's knife. It's how I make a living. When I'm working, it almost feels like an extension of myself. But the real issue here is that people that leave those comments see minimalism as an identity, as a label that boxes you in, and now there's all these rules you need to abide by. Even more so if they're into extreme minimalism. If that's you, I hate to break it to you, but minimalism has minimal rules. It's not a numbers game, and it's not a religion. If you're running around telling everyone they need to throw out all their belongings, it's like you've joined a cult where the leader is your empty closet. And that's not a very inspiring guru, is it? Minimalism generally changed my life, but my understanding of it has evolved. What works for one person may not work for you, and vice versa. A retired senior has very different wants and needs than a family of 4, but minimalism can help them both. They can cherry pick. My decision to become a minimalist was a personal choice. If others are curious and show interest because they see it benefits me, that's great. But I won't push it on them or judge them. I embrace minimalism because I care about freedom, about living life on my own terms. I'm building toward that future, and minimalism is a tool that helps me on my journey. It helped me see that I was held back by my spending and weighed down by my stuff. Minimalism showed me how to live well with less. It helped me clear the canvas of my life so I can now paint on it with intention, use images and colors that I really care about instead of just following society's blueprint. But the end goal is not to have a white canvas. If all of this resonates with you and you're interested in minimalism but don't really know where to begin, you can download my How to Get Started with Minimalism checklist in the description below. Extreme minimalism creates new forms of stress. Having a lot of stuff can cause stress. Just look at some episodes of the TV show Hoarders. All your things unconsciously communicate to you that they want to be used. You know, the vacuum cleaner wants to be used to vacuum, a chair wants to be sat on, and if you own a lot of stuff, that can weigh on you. So when I first decluttered my apartment years ago, I think that's one of the reasons I felt so light. I didn't get this constant overload anymore of visual cues from things I didn't use or care about. But if you take minimalism too far, go extreme, that can cause its own kind of stress. Stress in the name of simplicity. There are the practical implications, it's difficult to invite friends or family over. And what if you need a power drill? You told yourself, I'll borrow it from my neighbor. And sure, maybe he gave it to you once, but now he's had enough and he doesn't want to keep lending it to you. Or maybe you just feel bad every time you have to ask other people for favors because you decided to get rid of everything. I also reckon that if you identify as an extreme minimalist, that's a very high bar you hold yourself accountable to. And that's stressful. You can't mess up. A trip to the store or upgrading your phone might feel like a moral failure instead of a practical choice. It's like a vegetarian eating a hamburger in secret because they really crave it, but they're petrified that they'll be spotted by one of their friends. And what about your dating life? For many potential partners, anything extreme isn't very attractive. Working 100 hours a week, extreme political views, obsessive fitness routines, as extreme minimalism. It can come off as controlling, inflexible, and just hard to relate to. I don't want to be that extreme. Minimalism should make life easier, not turn daily living into a challenge. I like a cozy home, not a bare one. I care about living in a calm, spacious home. My environment influences how I feel, and I like it to feel peaceful. But I'm Dutch, so I also like it to be gezellig. Gezellig is a word that's ingrained in the Dutch DNA. There's no real translation for it in English. It refers to coziness, warmth, and connection. It's everything that warms the heart and puts you in a good mood, especially when shared with people you care about. A bare home stripped of all its warmth and gezelligheid isn't appealing to me, and even less so for my girlfriend. We prefer a home that feels calm, but also warm and lived in, even if that means having a few extra items lying around. I'm not trying to prove anything. Yes, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about minimalism, but no, I'm not a preacher, and I hope I don't come across as one. I couldn't care less if people watch my content and think,
Look at this stupid guy. He's so full of it. Minimalism is dumb.
Or maybe it's the opposite. They get riled up because I'm not minimalist enough. I just share how minimalism has helped me. Living with less stress, fewer distractions, and more space to think and breathe. That's enough for me. If I really wanted to prove something, I'd feel more pressure to present myself in a more extreme way, as someone who owns very few possessions. I don't live in a home full of stuff. And I don't have a garage, a basement, attic, or a secret storage unit with years of clutter stored away. But I do own a bunch of things. I have more than 4 t-shirts, and I just counted them. We have 6 spoons and probably more forks. And we also have extra bedding for when guests come to visit us. If that means I'm doing it wrong in the eyes of some extreme minimalist, I don't care. The way I see it, I make decisions that work for me, that make me happy. And I share that here on YouTube, trying to paint a realistic picture of minimalism. I think that's more necessary than a picture-perfect portrayal of extreme minimalism that's not attainable for 99% of people. If my videos inspire others, that's great. If not, that's also fine. I'm not trying to convert the world or anything. I mean, none of my family are minimalists and we get along just fine. They don't judge me, or not to my face at least, and I definitely don't push minimalism onto them. Minimalism is about balance, not self-deprivation. Extreme minimalism can look great on camera. It has a bit of the wow factor, like, man, look how empty that living space is. But I found it wasn't so great in practice. During my 7-day experiment, my back started to really hurt from sitting against the wall. I moved to the kitchen to work, but that still wasn't great. It was also winter, and I was sleeping on an inflatable mattress, which doesn't give off nearly as much heat as a regular mattress does. I was also cold from a draft coming in under the balcony door, which would normally have been blocked by a bed. Now, these are of course things that can be addressed while still practicing extreme minimalism, but still, The whole thing just felt like unnecessary self-deprivation. This kind of self-imposed hardship doesn't necessarily lead to greater wisdom, happiness, or personal growth. The way I understand it, minimalism came up as a counter-movement to consumerism, where so many people overspend and end up in debt for wants, not needs. Minimalism is a way to regain control and get back to a point of balance, where you're more intentional about what you spend your money on, what you surround yourself with, and the choices you make in your life. The goal is not to have an arbitrarily low number of possessions. And the same goes for slow living, which also came up as a counter-movement, to live better in a fast-paced modern world. It's about balance there too. When I see content about slow living now, it sometimes seems like it's about doing everything slowly, or even checking out from society altogether. But as a counter-movement, it's not about doing everything at a snail's pace. It's about being fast when it makes sense to be fast, and being slow when slowness is called for. If you want to check my full experience of how I tried extreme minimalism for 7 days, you can check that out right here. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. It is done. It is done.